Welcome to How I Broke That.
Brian Beers was born into a family of entrepreneurs. In fact, he was destined to become an owner of a Midas muffler repair shop since two generations of men in his family had been franchise owners. But Beers actually inherited six Midas shops in 2010 that were losing money or just breaking even. So he had to completely overhaul the engine of the business and redo the body. So a total rebuild. By listening to our show today, you'll learn how Beers and his family have been in the Midas franchise business since the 60s and how Midas is actually very family friendly as a business. How Beers took the business from 6 stores in 2010, led an expansion in 2016, and now, along with his brother, owns 30 Midas shops and growing in the Philadelphia area. And we will also throw it into fifth gear with Beers on how he runs his business, focuses on employees, and really how he thinks he can be even more successful in this industry. Breakers, don't pump the brakes on this one. Let's welcome Brian Beers to the show. Brian, welcome.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for the intro and thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
How's Philly?
Oh, it's finally stopped raining from the hurricane. So we're happy about that. We had like 5 days straight of terrible weather. So, but
Stopped
nice.
raining, but you guys are probably on cloud nine because the Phils are in the playoffs. The Eagles are rolling, all that good stuff, right?
Eagles are good. I'm not following the Phillies, but the Eagles are fun to watch. So
the Eagles just did a number on my former football team, the Redskins, but we won't talk about that. Let's talk about you. The opportunity here on this show is to first tell your story, and then we're going to talk about your passion when it comes to business. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm a glass half full guy. But we're going to kind of start on a little bit of a low note here and talk about when you were 6 years old and you were hit by a car, and then when you were 9 years old and what that has taught you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was 6 years old. I was running across the street to hang out with my best friend at the time. And I didn't see a car coming. It ran me over and, broke both my legs. And I was in the hospital for, I don't even know. It was all summer because it happened in the beginning of the summer. I'm sure it was like 3 months or something like that. Multiple surgeries, skin grafts, all this stuff. It's just obviously I was 6. It was just many years ago. But so I mean, I don't know what you learn from it. Part of it, I think, is you grow up kind of quick when you got to like deal with all that kind of that stuff. And then when I was 9, I was at the same friend's house and I ran into a tree on a go-kart and sliced part of my Achilles tendon and had a similar path again. It was the same foot too that I had all the issues with. Totally normal now though. But so I mean, I don't know. You can call it resilience. You can call it like determination. I think a lot of those qualities I have now, and maybe you can trace it back to kind of, like I said, at a young age, just kind of having some trauma there and just having to overcome it. And I can't even imagine what my parents gone through, because I have almost a 6-year-old, and
right.
Those issues I can only imagine. So
yeah, and we have she's almost 8 going on 18, so I can only imagine what your parents are feeling as well. But let's talk about those qualities. And not to dissuade anybody from being an entrepreneur, but do you have to have those qualities? I can tell you, I grew up with an allergy to milk and severe asthma, so I had to overcome those things as well. A little bit different, but in general, do you have to have those qualities to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, you got to be resilient. You got to like be able to take the punches. You got to, I mean, I always look for like, what's the positive? What can I learn from the situation, no matter what it is? And I think, that's part of the resiliency of just continuing to kind of move on, because things don't go your way. You get sued, you get like people quit, there's like, you have issues, like your, sales drop, like, the brand, your brand or whatever could have issues. It could be macro things. Like there's all these different headwinds. And I think for someone, if they just like, take it all to heart and they play the victim and it's always like, woe is me, and why does this stuff keep happening? And, it would, be super stressful. And I mean, not a life that I would want to live. And so, if you can kind of go into it thinking, hey, I'm gonna deal with some stuff, but like I'm gonna figure it out. Like I'm gonna surround myself with smart people. I'm gonna ask for help when I need it. I'm going to like find solutions forward, and I'm just gonna keep moving and not focus on the negative. But hey, what can I learn from this? And so I think if you can go at it with the right attitude and take the right actions, then yeah, I mean, you can create any level of success in business that you want.
Oh man, you said getting sued. Check. Business changing. Check. Losing money. Check. All those. I'm with you. Having been there, done that, will happen again. What also pulled me through was mentors and family members. So talk about, can you, for us, the influence of your family and helping you get through those tough times.
Yeah, I mean, we're family. Like my dad started with my uncle, his brother-in-law, and so they were partners for decades. And my brother and I now are partners. And I think it's great to have. I think it's nice not being alone at something, right? I know plenty of guys who they're on their own, and like it's a lot more weight on their shoulders. And it's I think you have a partner, it's a little bit easier to bounce ideas each other. You have different strengths, different weaknesses. But as long as you're aligned on similar goals and similar, overall strategies, like right now we're in a cash conservation mode, like going into a potential recession. It's kind of like, hey, let's not take it personally either. Let's like build up cash for either sustaining the business or that we need to go and, hey, there's going to be opportunities. We're going to be able to buy other ones out and accelerate our growth potentially in a certain amount of time. And, I think if both partners are on the same page with the direction, like that support is huge. I think where people really run into issues is when the one partner says, hey, I want to bleed the business dry of all of its cash, and I want to go buy a new car and a new house and spend all this money personally or for the business, whatever. And then the other partner is like, no, I want to save it all. Like we shouldn't spend any money. I think that's usually what causes conflict. And so, having the support and, the alignment is really important. And same, my dad and uncle are the same way with their alignment and how they grew the business. And I've seen it both ways. I've seen families ripped apart in Midas. Like you mentioned, Midas is there's a lot of second generation, third generation people. And I've seen some like where the father did really well and then passed it to his two sons who are maybe a little bit younger than my dad. But then they try for a couple years and they hate each other and they split up the stores and now they don't even talk to each other. And
Mhm.
it's like they're in the same market right across the street, and I'm sure they don't go to holidays together, and I'm sure they like, like I said, not a life that I want to live. And so anyway, I think it could be a really good thing, but then it's also like I think if it's the point that it's going to ruin the family, you probably should go your separate ways, or hey, maybe that works for them. Maybe they just separate the business and they're all friendly at the holidays. I don't really know them, but I'm just those are the stories you hear.
But you guys, at least from, you know, you had that expansion time, and can you kind of take us back to that when you went from stores you inherited to the stores you have now, and let's get some concrete numbers. But was that something you led? Was your brother a part of that? Was your father and uncle?
Yeah, so initially it was all me. So I joined in 2010. I was in the business for 6 years, kind of learning it. Really decided, hey, I want to grow it because like I saw that as the only way I could really make more money. It was like, we buy more stores, and that new entity, whatever. It's my money to buy them, my money to run them, my money to earn. And so that's kind of what led it. And then yeah, I think then my brother then joined right around that same time.
Mm.
And so then after a few years, I sold him half my interest in it, and then together we continued to grow it. And then, we reached a certain point that then we bought out my dad and uncle,
Right.
because we had 24 more or whatever in this new entity and 6 in the original. So then we used the money from the new stores to buy out them. So
Yeah, I was at a party last night, and obviously you and your brother aren't twins, but I was staring at these twins, like identical twins. They're like a year old, so they're obviously very young. But you could tell the personalities developing between these two identical twins.
yep.
So, uh, given that you guys aren't identical twins, but you're obviously very close brothers, how do you balance what you're good at, what he's good at, and vice versa as a team?
Yeah, I mean, we have countering, skill sets. I'm more the people person. I'm the one talking on the podcast. He's really good at kind of the numbers and the details and the back office and like the technology. And So I'm like kind of the front shop. He's kind of the back shop, you could say, in a sense. And so
Yeah.
that kind of helps, that we have these countering things, and there's some things he's really good at and figuring out that I would don't have the patience or, the intellect to do. And, I'm better at some of the, fostering the relationships and kind of, maybe moving some of these deals along that is just better, kind of my skill set. So, we're lucky that we're both, we have countering skill sets. So
Is there a moment that you had where you're like, nah, this was, I should have listened to that one person who said, do not mix family and
no,
business.
I'm not there yet. Nope.
Yeah. But do you guys have, again, I'm not trying to go to negative town here, but I'm trying to, kind of put a playbook out there for people. Do you have a plan in place for decision making, things like that?
No, I mean, part of our rhythm is, we have kind of a list of we call it the deal tracker, but it's like it's a, it's a ClickUp list of all of our like open things, like bigger projects we want to work on, whether it's we're trying to expand to buy new stores, look at a new market, look at a new piece of real estate, invest in whatever, something we're going to do together, which is almost majority of things. And so, part of our rhythm is every single week on a Monday, we kind of go through this list and go through every item and say, hey, do we still want to do this? And then if we do, what is the next step? Like, is there an action we can take to try to move this thing along? And so like, I think having a consistent rhythm of conversations around the open projects or open deals helps to that alignment, to make sure that like I'm not like super really interested in like this one thing and he thinks it's like a terrible idea, but we don't ever talk about it, right? And I can't pitch him on all the positives I see and he can't defend it with all the negatives or whatever. So I think that's part of it. We just have this open thing and we're like constantly looking to update it and making sure that we have this consistent time to sit down and talk about like the most important things that are going to move us along. And I mean, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, growing
Right.
from 12 stores to 30 now. Has solely been, I mean, I give that time we spend doing that like 80% of the credit.
That's great. Yeah. You and I were on a call with my former COO, now the owner of my company, Flex, Michael Fay, and Michael was kind of that counterbalance. And we made that time. Unfortunately for Michael and I, we also spend a lot of time dicking around and having some fun. We could probably spend more time on business, but he's a friend, and so regardless, you have a brother, and I think of Michael as a brother, I should say, actually. So, it's carving out that time and making sure it's consistent is really important, regardless if they're a friend, they're your brother, or they're somebody that you just met 5 minutes ago. It's consistency, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. I want to move us into more of the business conversation. And I know you've been kind of having it underneath here, but one of the things that you talked about a lot is culture. And so we're not going to sit here, although I think it's fascinating, and maybe you can touch on it, why Midas was super successful and grew. But I want to really talk about the high level running your business. So talk about just the importance of creating culture, and then if you can, how you do it.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of the biggest differentiators we see when we can go and acquire 5 stores at a time, 7 stores at a time, 1 store at a time, doesn't matter. Like the secret sauce for the most part is that, we kind of wrap them into our culture, which for us is, we want people who are driven, they want to win every single day. They want to like have success. They want to, celebrate that success, right? They're driven to win, that they're accountable. Like they do the things that they say they're going to do is like super important to us. That they're organized, right? Like that, because it's a lot to run the store. You got all these different things coming at you. If somebody's super organized, they're gonna have a much better time creating that success than somebody who's not. And then finally, somebody who's a team player, because we're a team. Like we want others to help each other, whether it's helping a technician, whether it's helping a customer, whether it's helping another store with an issue of a car that they can't figure out and someone else can figure it right. So like, those are the core values and the people that we want to employ. And then like people who are like that generally want to be surrounded by other people who share similar core values to them. So if you're an A player and you're really driven to win, you don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of like duds who are on their phones all day and just like clocking in and out and you're hustling around. Right. And so that's part of it, right? Is you identify what are your core values. You want to weed out the people who don't align. You want to bring more people in that do. So that's like part one. Then part B for us is the communication between the stores. In a lot of cases, like we're going in there, and a store can sometimes, or any business, right, especially in these like location based businesses, can feel somewhat like they're on an island. If you have the 4, 6, 7, 8 people, however many work there, it doesn't matter. But like if they're kind of like they don't have much interaction with the other stores around them, eventually they kind of go to the same place every day. It's kind of the same rhythm every day, and over time it kind of gets old and you feel like you're kind of alone, and maybe you don't have the support, and maybe like you look for something else. And so, part of our culture is to try to get the guys communicating as much as possible. We do that through Slack, having a channel where guys can post up sales that they sell and congratulate each other and thumbs up and emojis and all this stuff. We'll do Zoom calls, right, where we try to get together different stores, within the market, like, and then cross market to say, hey, let's get all the top performing guys on a Zoom call who are doing 2 million a year or whatever it is. And like those guys can learn from each other. Right. And what are the best practices? What are the challenges? Because their challenges running a $2 million store are completely different than the guy who's running the $600,000, $700,000 store. And so there's different like touch points that we do to try to get people to connected, to share ideas. And then the daily interaction of Slack and using Loom videos or, whatever it is, just to try to up the, level of communication and alignment with knowing, hey, what are our company goals and what's the most important thing that we want you focused on and why? Yeah. And so, we buy new stores, we got really good people who are sometimes have zero culture, zero communication, zero technology, alone on an island, those same exact people, same exact pay plan sometimes, but then we just get them into our world and like, they're now more engaged, they're happier. They can see, hey, I'm like, they're competitive. So the top guy of the stores we bought might be number 5 or 6 now in the new organization. And so now he's now motivated to get back to be the top guy. And so we'll see, 30, 40% increases in sales of stores we acquire, just like same exact people, same exact pay plans, like just by the culture aspect. So that's why I'm a big proponent of it.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, culture plus communication plus other ingredients, coaching equals community, potentially equals success. You're building a community of like-minded people.
Yep. That is the goal. Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting. I tried to do this in my tutoring company, back from 08 to, 15, give or take. And it was a challenge. The technology was so different. We didn't have Slack, and I sound old here, but, we didn't have WhatsApp channels and things like that. And where it was most challenging for me is I had tutors who were spread out all over the DC area, and they spent their afternoons tutoring, and at that point, this is in person. And I would say, do you guys want to get together, and have a beer? It's all on me. We'll go to a Caps game. No, thanks. But do you want to get to know the other tutors? Absolutely. And I was like, okay, now we have a problem, so the tools weren't there. So I'm glad to see that has evolved. Do you have a playbook for building culture and community, or do you do this from down here in the gut?
Yeah. I mean, it's more, nothing's like written. I mean, some of it's written, but most of it is, us kind of figuring out what we have done that works. We're open to trying new things. I think that's like part of the success of any entrepreneur is their ability to try new things. Hey, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Sometimes we spend $30,000 trying to build out a call center and it doesn't work. But we're willing to try it because we think that the returns we could get it are significant. And,
Right.
it's like, you're placing bets, right? And where do you want to place your money? And so for us, like in building the culture, there's things we've tried along the way that really worked, and we continue to do those things or double down. There's things we've done that, we try and it's just like, there isn't much, return on that. And so while there's no playbook, we kind of have our system that we continue to tweak and refine and work on. But then, yes, we acquire new locations. They just get rolled in to whatever the current version of our system is, which is this evolving, machine.
It evolves, but we are 100% aligned on this, you and I. It needs to evolve, but it also needs to stay as simple as possible, right?
Yep.
How do you
Yep.
do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll tell you, it becomes a whole lot harder when you grow. It was really easy when you have 6 stores, 8 stores, 10 stores, or whatever it is. I can look all the stores at a single page. I know everybody. I know what they need to do. As you continue to grow, it becomes a challenge, right? Because then even for me, I try to look at the business sometimes as the way I looked at it when we have 10, but then you have 30 stores. You want to look at 4 KPIs. You've got like 120 numbers on this big grid of spreadsheet, which becomes unsustainable, right? Versus, so now I need to change how I look at the business, right? I need to look at it from a market based, a district manager level base, like who's in charge, rolled up to them, right? But then I need to teach them how they can take their numbers and break it down to the 8 to 10 stores or whatever it is that they need to look at. And so it's my ability to change from looking at every single individual detail to what's the total, what's the trend, but then be able to coach the individual guys of how to look further. But it's a challenge. I struggle with it because I'm a details person. I can look at a big spreadsheet and I can figure out the stuff, but for most people, it becomes an eye chart. And then if you focus on too many things, you're focusing on nothing, and then you're not going to get the results you desire.
Yeah, I think maybe you could agree with this. I know you have your own show, which is a badass show. I think sometimes these shows are all about an opportunity for us, the host, to explore and get to know people. And I have gone down this rabbit hole of learning about franchises. You, Michael Fay, who's at Subways, Jamie Weeks got Orange Theory, and he's starting his other ventures there. And why I'm interested in franchises. And that's because I've done a complete 180 on this, because I can remember studying franchises many years ago and saying, no. Don't you want to pick the colors, and don't you want to build the logo, and don't you want to create your own culture and stand, SOPs, all that stuff. And now I'm like, it all sounds wonderful to do it in the franchise way. So touch a little bit on you don't have to convince me, because I'm like all in on franchises now, but talk to the people who are still thinking the way I do about franchises, and who it's for and who it's not.
Yeah, it's for the people who love operations, right? Like, you give me the playbook, you tell me how I can go make money, and I will go do that. Like, if that's you, then franchise is a totally viable option. If you're the guy that says, "Hey, I want to create a brand, I want to pick the colors, I want to make a website, I want to decide how it's marketed, I want to I want to build this thing from scratch. I want to one day franchise it myself or sell it one day myself. I want my name on it, like Paul Davis or whatever, right? Brian Beers Tire Repair. If my goal was, some legacy thing or name thing, that was this big idea, then probably not, right? You should probably pursue that on yourself. But for a lot of people who are just, operations driven, sales driven, they're good at hiring people, they're good at training people, they're good at implementing a process. You could start your own business and figure it all from scratch, which is totally fine, or you could just get the playbook and, run it. And then, and it varies by franchise too. Like, everyone's different. Like in Midas, in a lot of ways, I like to explain it that we run our own automotive repair company that happens to carry the Midas banner. We have the best of both worlds, where we have a national brand, we have marketing, we have buying power. We can open up a brand new location. Day one, we have the phones ringing and people are coming in, and we're profitable hopefully by month 2 or 3. Versus I open up a brand new Beers Tire Auto Repair. Nobody knows what the hell that is. It would take me months, if not years, to build a reputation, right, that I could instantly have with the Midas brand. However, I still I run my own company, right? I hire my people. I decide on my comp plans and our growth path, and all the stuff in our own processes. Midas has some processes, but we're at the size now. We have our own ways of doing things, right? We have our own tweak on how we want the customer experience to be, on how we, stock our inventory, how we manage our inventory, how we we still have a whole book of our own SOPs that we've written because we need them. We have 200 employees. We need them to have the scale, but but then there's other brands that you get into, like Chick-fil-A, for example, where you are going to follow their system to a T. And but even in their model, not to be negative on them, but you're buying yourself a job, a very well-paying, you make $400,000 or $500,000 a year, running a single store, but you're there every day. You're running the business, and it's a great opportunity for a lot of people. But their model's different. So that's what's kind of unique is you can find something that fits what you want. Like mine's on the kind of the one end of the spectrum that says, hey, we run our own business, we fly the banners. It's kind of a mix between what they think are best practices and what we determine we want to do versus, Chick-fil-A model. On the other hand is like, they're going to tell you exactly what you're going to do. That has proven to be very successful, right? That will make you a lot of money. And your job is really to focus on execution of those ideas. So
I was going to ask you this question, but now I think I know how you would respond to it, which was, okay, tell me, because I would imagine you're much like Michael and Jamie, and you're studying franchising and listening to the Wolf of Franchise, a great podcast. People should listen to that. You wouldn't necessarily come out and say, hey, the next best franchise is this, because it sounds like the next best franchise actually depends on you as well, the person. Is that true?
Yep. Yeah. This is one of the things I talk about on Twitter and, my newsletter and stuff. And is because I get this question all the time. How do I pick the best franchise to invest into? And, there's no magic bullet. There's no like, hey, you do this one thing, you're gonna make a ton of money, or you do this, like, lose your shirt. Mm-hmm. And so it's a combination of a couple things. It all depends on what your goals are. Like, is your goal just to have this one thing that you're going to run, you're going to make X amount of money, or are you looking for a business that you can build to a substantial size? And so and it depends what your skill sets are. Like for me, my favorite is the legacy brand. So finding older brands like Midas, like Subway, that have been around for 25 years plus, that have legacy owners. They've got older guys who want to get out and they don't have an exit plan, because if their kids were going to take it over, they already would be taking it over. And so a lot of those guys, it's easy to grow within a legacy brand system because of just the amount of just a lot of guys that want to get out. So if you can marry that with a franchise that has a lot of units, like in your backyard, like in Philadelphia, for example, Midas has, let's say, 60 locations between Philadelphia and New Jersey, Delaware, that kind of market. If you were in Charlotte, there's 3 shops. So Midas might be a really good option to, quote, roll up in Philadelphia because there's 60 opportunities. Charlotte, terrible. It's not an option at all. There, however, is like 25 Meineke. So maybe if you liked automotive, you consider Meineke, right? So that's the first thing I look at is legacy brand with a lot of units in your market. But then if this is your roll up strategy, right? Like me, you want to grow through acquisition, not grow through development. You look at the ownership of those units. And so, if you want to buy a bunch of units, you want fragmented ownership. So like in Philadelphia, if you were to look now, like today, there's 3 of us that control, I've got 30, he's got whatever, 17, 40, 55 of them. Mm-hmm. So and the 3 big players probably aren't going to sell like 1 or 2 off. Right.
Right.
And so it'd be more attractive if there were 60 locations and there's 55 different owners, right? That'd be a lot easier for somebody to go in and, buy 1, buy 2, buy 5, buy 6, and then, gain their 10 or whatever the goal would be. And so if someone's going down acquisition path, those are the things I look at. Legacy brand, lots of units, fragmented ownership. Now, if somebody wants to go the development path and say, hey, I want this brand new concept that I want to nobody knows about, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to find a location. I'm going to build out a $300,000 facility. I'm going to build it from zero, hire everybody. I can own a whole bunch of territory. That's totally viable too. But in my world, or my opinion, it's a lot of risk. It's a lot of work. I could put the same time, effort, energy, money into that, and I could do a roll up, and I think I could grow a whole lot quicker than the greenfield development territory. So anyway, those are the 2 paths that someone can take.
Cool. Michael knows this. I have a lifelong dream of owning a Roy Rogers, and several of them. If you're from the East Coast, you know about Roy Rogers. They were around and they went away, and now they're kind of coming back.
There you go.
And I still think the Fixins bar and the holster of fries is brilliant and part of my childhood.
I've never been to one. So
you've never been to a Roy's?
No, they don't have them up here.
Really? Like on 95?
There might be one. I've heard the name, but I don't.
Yeah, they used to be all the way, as I was driving north, to Philly, it would be like definite stop at like the Maryland house or as you got into
Okay.
Delaware
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep.
But they've gone away there, but now they're coming back. So might have to pick your brain on that. But man, you've been, a really inspiring guest, and I love having those on. But also, I think you've been very generous with your time to give people, like a roadmap in terms of potentially recovering from some tough things in childhood, working with your family, building a culture, and then deciding if they want to get into a franchise and what would be the right franchise. So that's really helpful information. So I think very cool of you to show up. Definitely, we'll put in the show description. People can follow you on Twitter. It's great stuff, and your newsletter is dynamite. Long and short of it, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you. See ya.
Thanks for listening. Next time on How I Broke That.